Right. Um, okay, so I guess for Startup Labs and Bruin Women in Business, we're happy to have this fireside chat virtually with Riley Rojas. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Riley, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I have a midterm, but I really wanted to do all that I can to help out. So, just a little bit about me is I'm born and raised in Southern California. I'm a senior right now at UCLA. This is my last quarter. I'm a political science major. And throughout my time at UCLA, I've founded three startups. Just a little bit about the startups that I founded. Freshman year, when I got to school, I was really passionate about fashion and what I was wearing. And a huge event for college students are tailgates. And I really found that there was a huge lack of fashion forward, exclusive tailgate attire. So I started to make my own, and soon my friends wanted them. So I started to make them for my friends. And then that just caught on a lot of fire. And one of my best friends approached me and said, you know what, we should just start a business together and sell tailgate attire. Fast forward 2 years from then, we scaled to over 6 universities. We raised $125,000 in angel investment funding. We lead a team of over 20 employees, and we're growing really rapidly. Now, moving into my sophomore year in college, I was also working part time at the textbook store on campus because I am paying for my way through college. And while I was working there, I saw a huge problem that students would buy textbooks, but barely any students would return their textbooks at the end of the quarter just because it was so inconvenient and just a really big hassle. And I really wanted to make that process easier for students. So I thought of the idea of creating a textbook kiosk. So this is a machine where you can go up to it, scan your textbook, drop it in the bin, and it'll Venmo you immediately. So I led a team of 6 engineers, and I founded this company called Textbook Dibs. And I was in the startup UCLA Summer Accelerator this past summer for the company. And now the kiosk is piloting at UCLA's campus. So I'm really excited about that. And now, about 6 months ago, during quarantine, I had a lot of free time because those two startups were really dependent on students being in college. And I saw this huge problem during COVID of all the gyms closing. And I didn't have a gym in my apartment that I live at, but I wanted to continue to work out. So I met alongside with two of my good friends who are also entrepreneurs. And we created Aptitude, meaning fitness in Spanish, which sells at-home fitness accessories for your at-home workout. So we've been doing this for just a couple months now, and we just hit 50K followers on Instagram, which we're really excited about. We were in a Techstars fellowship, the Startup UCLA Summer Accelerator, and we recently got on Walmart, which is really exciting. So you can shop our kit there, Walmart and Amazon. And then now that kind of brings me to the present day of how I am now. Sorry, that was a long intro.
No, that was perfect. It definitely looks like you already have a lot of experience with entrepreneurship. Can you touch a little bit on where you tend to get your inspiration from when you're thinking of these ventures or these startups?
Yes, great question. I think the main common denominator with all three of my startups that I've founded is I've really seen a problem that affects my everyday life. And when I see problems like there's just not cute, affordable tailgate clothing, or a problem where it's really a hassle for me to return my textbook and get money, I resonate and I really empathize with these issues. So it's easier for me to create a solution because I am the target user. So I think really kind of the fire that makes me want to start these companies is really solving problems that affect my everyday life, my friends' everyday life, and really focusing on those issues.
Yeah. So when you're starting these companies, what kind of challenges do you tend to face? And also, looking on the bright side, what are some of like the fun things or best parts about founding a business?
Yes. So, first, the challenges, a lot of challenges, but a lot of challenges, a lot of positives. I think first is it can be very isolating to be an entrepreneur, especially in college, because typically students will just do a different job or focus on their school, and you're really putting yourself out there. And I remember freshman year when I was first launching my tailgate company on social media, I got not a lot of positive reactions, or not even honestly any reactions from my close circle. People just didn't really buy the tops. They didn't really know if I knew how to make clothing. And I remember my first couple purchases were people that I didn't even know. So it was really hard to just put myself out there and show people, hey, I'm starting this idea, like this is me in a company. So that is really scary, but you learn so much about yourself and you gain a lot of confidence. And I think, there's so many positives. My whole college experience was really starting Izzy and Riley. That really took up most of my college experience. And I mean, me and Izzy, we were flying to pop-up shops because we had pop-up shops at all our 6 universities. So we were flying to Colorado, Arizona, all over the country while we were in school, hosting pop-up shops, having interns travel with us, staying in hotels, just having the best time. And although it was hard to manage everything, it was an experience like no other, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Yeah, so I'm really interested with Izzy and Riley. I've seen it a lot on campus since I've been here. What would you say are what have been like the struggles in terms of dealing with competitors? Because I know the clothing business is very competitive, especially.
Yes, and especially with college game day attire, there are a lot of companies now popping up all around the country for them. But Izzy and I have always really tried to stay true to ourselves and our brand. And I think that's really what separates us from other competitors. Although, a lot of tailgate tops may look a little similar with the phrases that they're saying, Izzy and I have really tried to make every top from the heart and really embrace our own style. And Izzy and I, we are a little bit more risky with our styles, and we're not that conservative, which we like. Because in the past, a lot of the tops that girls would wear would just be t-shirts or sweatshirts or these dad type polos. And Izzy and I, we are launching, tube tops, one shoulder tops, a lot of more riskier things. And although we have gotten some backlash, we've always tried to stay true to ourselves and be like, this is what we love as girls, being in college, being our age. And we've always just tried to stick to that. And I think that's why people have gotten really excited about our brand.
Awesome. And I know you definitely went through the challenge of like getting funding as well. Less than 7% of VC funding currently goes to female founders. Have you noticed any resistance from angel investors or venture capital firms when trying to raise money for any of your ventures?
Yes, 100%. It's so much harder when you are a girl because all those stereotypes that you hear and the stigmas that you hear, unfortunately are true. And I've had multiple times where I have tried to connect with someone or network and people won't take me seriously, or other people will think they'll have a different intention or motive with us, which is unfortunate. But, something that you just have to really consider and think is, when we are approaching these VC firms and these angel investors, we've kind of changed our perspective, and I've changed my perspective. And instead of me going to them and being like, hey, I really need money for my business, I come in with the attitude of like, why should I allow you to be a part of my business? Why should I allow you to invest your money in my business? And by like kind of switching that perspective, it changes the narrative and it makes you feel like you have more control and more ownership.
Yeah, and adding to the idea of not being taken seriously, uh, do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome yourself and not taking yourself seriously? Is that ever kind of a challenge too?
100%. And especially living in this age of social media, I feel like I'm always living this double life because I do want to be an entrepreneur, half the time, and I want to be working on my businesses and I want people to take me seriously. But the other half of the time, I'm 21, I'm in college in LA, I'm in a sorority, I have this whole other life. And it's hard because sometimes those blend. And there have been times when I've been in social outings when I'm out with my friends on the weekend and people will start to talk to me about my company and I won't really want to talk about it in that moment, or vice versa. And I've had to really juggle both and really to kind of set a strict black and white of, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur right now and be really focused. But when I'm out with my friends, I try to just not talk about it with people or try to not bring it up because I don't want people to think of me in a certain light. But it's a constant struggle that I'm constantly trying to work on. So yeah.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people are always, when you're getting advice about founding a business, some people will say you need to constantly be trying to pitch your brand, pitch your company, like whenever you have an opportunity. Uh, can you explain more? Does it sounds like you're kind of the mindset, like there's definitely a time and place for all of this. And it's more important to kind of balance when you're focusing on entrepreneurship and when you're focusing on just being a normal college student.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so for me, I met other entrepreneurs where their companies and what they're doing really is their pride and joy, and they're always talking about it, always thinking about it. And that's just not the person that I am, because I think I would go crazy, honestly. So I've really tried to have a really strict schedule or kind of persona with myself of when I am doing my business stuff, I am really focused on that. But when I'm not, I'm fully present. I'm fully, just out with my friends or talking with my friends. So I try to really have that line, because I think I would go crazy and I need to have that balance in order to be my best self in both scenarios.
Yeah. So adding to that a little bit more, how did you juggle just working on your startup and doing schoolwork and real work at the same time?
Yes, to be completely transparent, I I chose the political science major because it does come pretty easy to me. Just because I am super involved in politics, my family's always talking about it, and it's primarily really just essays, which don't take a lot of time for me. I really was interested in doing an economics major or even the entrepreneurship minor, but I knew that those were more demanding majors. So I chose to do this, I guess, easier major for myself so that I would have more time to do my startups. But I honestly, I didn't really attend like 80% of school, and I just worked on the startups most of the time. So that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. So do you think major was ever an important factor for you when you were trying to create a startup? Like, do you think down the line your major is important when you're becoming an entrepreneurship for those people that are concerned that their major maybe isn't a fit for the startups that they want to create? Like, what's your take on that?
I fully believe in the phrase learn by doing. And as much as I've learned so much from UCLA and my political science major, which I'm really grateful for, the most that I've learned from entrepreneurship and building a business is just by doing it and just by taking action and learning from my mistakes. I think that, me being at UCLA to me was almost a means to an end. I wanted to be here to make connections, to be in Los Angeles. I wasn't really here for the political science major, but I kind of needed that to be here. So that's kind of how I saw it.
Awesome. When you were creating your startup, or maybe now, did you have a mentor? And how did you figure out what to do at the very beginning when you were starting your company?
Yes. So at the very beginning, I did just start it with my best friend. And honestly, we YouTubed everything. I remember our first order, we were sitting in her car and we YouTubed how to mail a package because we didn't know how to do it. Like everything from mailing a package to building a website to using Adobe Illustrator, we YouTubed everything, Googled everything. Like that's just how we learn. And we loved doing it that way. And you can really learn anything online, which is the greatest part of the digital age. But then as I progressed and went further in my journey, I did get a mentor, Robert Jadon, who is the founder of Startup UCLA, and he has mentored me through both accelerator programs and just I meet with him all the time and kind of give him updates on my companies. And he's really guided me and connected me with so many people to help me get to this stage.
Awesome. Yeah, no shame in YouTubing everything. I definitely do that whenever I need to even mail something. Forget
Yeah.
how to do that sometimes. So as a female founder, do you feel that there are just as many resources available to you at UCLA compared to a male founder?
I think so. I think UCLA and Startup UCLA has definitely done a great job in making it very inclusive for both genders. But I do think there are some things that are out of UCLA's control. For example, when they are trying to find mentors or speakers to come speak to us, I know even if they wanted to get equal number of female to male mentors, maybe it's harder because just there's less female entrepreneurs in the space. So I know they are trying their best, but I think just in entrepreneurship in that community, there's such a small amount of female entrepreneurs of color and of different ethnicities. So that's really why I'm super passionate about doing things like this and trying to just get the word out more to inspire other people to get in this space.
Yeah, and throughout that journey, is there any piece of advice, or what's the most valuable piece of advice you've received about entrepreneurship?
Good question. I think, hmm, I think the biggest piece of advice is the most important thing to me is not the idea. It's not you target market fit, any of that, but it's really your team. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs is your success of a company is defined by the first 10 employees. And I just remember there's just been so many times where I wanted to stop, or I'm tired, or I don't want to do it anymore, and either my co-founders or my interns or anyone on the team would just inspire me or say something positive that would keep me going. And honestly, if it wasn't for all of them, I wouldn't have continued these startups. So it's just so important to be very particular and really be careful about who you're surrounding yourself with, who's on your team, because they can really make or break it for you, and they can make you want to stop or want to continue and keep pushing.
Yeah. So I found out you have been also balancing real life work too. Can you touch a little bit on if you see yourself ever working in a large company, and what those aspirations look like as well?
Yes. So I am working for Facebook in January as a product manager. So I'll be working with Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And after a couple years of being in the startups, I've learned so much. But really, the most important thing to me is having impact, and how can I impact people? How can I impact everyone's everyday life? And something sad that I realize is I don't think that I would have the ability to affect the amount of people that these large tech companies can affect. Facebook affects 3 billion users almost every single day. And I want to be part of that, and building products and tools to affect that amount of people. So that's what really attracted me to these big companies. So I think I'll stay at these big companies for a while, and maybe in the future I'll return back to the startup worlds. But my main goal right now is really to impact and influence people.
Yeah, would you recommend that as like a step? Is that something that you personally just found value in, or do you think there's there's also just uh, objectively going to be a lot of value to that if you want to become an entrepreneurship or want to become an entrepreneur down the line?
I think you can go either route. I think you could, go into the startup world for a little bit, a couple of years, learn, or start working for large companies and then switch off. It really just depends on the person. But for me, I think the college is such a great time to be an entrepreneur and do startups because you have no responsibilities. You have the freedom to take those financial risks. You don't have an apartment lease or kids you have to take care of. I'm just living in my dorm on my student loans. I can, afford to take these risks and try to build a company. But in a couple of years, when I'm paying an apartment lease and maybe if I have a family, I can't really have that much freedom. So for me at this young age, I think it's just the best time to do startups because that's the riskiest. And we're only going to continue to get more responsibilities as we get older.
Awesome. I'm also curious because this is definitely a very challenging time that we're living in right now. How has COVID impacted one, if not all, of your businesses? And how has that kind of changed the way that you want to run your businesses going forward?
Yeah, so I started Aptitude because of COVID. Right when the COVID pandemic kind of hit in March, when everyone had to quarantine, that's when my other two startups were kind of on the sidelines, and I had a lot of free time because the kiosk wasn't piloting, we weren't doing pop up shops anymore. So I started this fitness brand, and everything that I've done for the fitness brand has been centered towards people being affected by COVID and people staying at home. So I think, I mean, right now, even though it is a global pandemic and there are so many problems, I think in a time where there are so many problems is also when the most successful companies can be developed. So that's what I'm really trying to capitalize on and really trying to help other people with those fitness accessories. Um, yeah.
Okay. I think I have one more question. It's very general, so take it whatever direction you want to go. But what exactly is your next step or ultimate goal?
Yes. So my next immediate step is working for Facebook for a while. I really do see myself there for a long time building products and building solutions for those teams. But my ultimate goal, in 5 or 10 years, is really starting either my own company or my own project or product within those big companies and having that impact, billions of people. One of my favorite products ever is the Instagram like button. I've just studied this button for so long, and it's crazy how something so small and just a little double tap can completely revolutionize how we get our self-worth and live our everyday lives. I remember years ago when I would delete a photo if it didn't get, like 100 likes in 30 minutes. I had this little formula ratio in my head, and something that small can really influence what you're doing in your everyday life. And it's things like that that just inspire me so much, where I want to create the next product that gets people so excited or that can really change how people are acting on an everyday basis for the better. So that's really my goal in the next couple years.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Riley. This has been a great interview. I feel like I've learned a lot about all of the things that you've done. Do you have any socials or anything you want to plug real quick? I'm assuming
Yes,
Izzy and
of
Riley.
course. Yeah, it's izzyandriley.com shopping, and the Instagram is Izzy and Riley Co. And then Aptitude is just aptitude.co is the Instagram and the website. So feel free to shop those. And then my LinkedIn is just my name, Riley Rojas, if anyone wants to connect with me on there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so definitely, hopefully, they'll reach out to you and ask questions if they have anything else they're kind of wondering. But thank you so much for coming out to this fireside chat. Really means a lot.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me and for inspiring all these people. I'm so happy that I was able to be part of this.
Definitely. Thanks, Riley.